Israel's parliament, the Israeli Knesset, just approved a resolution with a 71-vote majority, an astonishingly high number, affirming and supporting Israel's legal and historic right to the land of Israel with a specific emphasis on Judea, Samaria, the Jordan Valley, or as the world falsely knows this area, the occupied West Bank. I know what you're thinking. Has it happened? Will Israel finally make the biblical heartland an official part of the nation of Israel? Well, unfortunately, not so fast, although this is a historic and exciting decision and resolution, and it should be celebrated. Let's get into all of the details on today's episode. Before we dive into today's episode, make sure you're subscribed, whether on YouTube or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit that follow button, leave us a rating. We would love to get 5 stars from you. Did you guys know that you are our marketing plan here at the Israel Guys? We don't do paid advertising with the YouTube channel here, but by subscribing, following, leaving us a review, whatever it is, commenting on YouTube, or sharing our content with your friends and family, or telling them about the Israel Guys, it helps us grow even more and reach as many people as possible with the truth and reality of what's going on here in the land of Israel with the entire world. So according to Israel National News, the Knesset plenum voted on Wednesday, which was yesterday afternoon, to approve a resolution affirming the state of Israel's natural, historical, and legal right to all parts of the land of Israel, with specific emphasis on Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley, which, as the world falsely knows it, is the occupied West Bank. It's not really, but that's how most of the world knows it. So this resolution, not legislation, not to be confused with legislation, but the resolution was passed with a majority of 71 members of Knesset, with only 13 votes against the resolution, which came from the Arab parties in the Knesset, obviously, and the party that basically translates to the Democratic Party, led by Yair Golan, against Blue and White, which is Yair Lapid. You guys know he has been a contender for the Prime Minister of Israel for a long time, and Blue and White, and Yesh Atid's led by Yair Lapid, were absent from the vote. Get into more of that here in a second. But I want to read you some of the quotes from this resolution, because it definitely is a historic move happening, and we should be super excited about this. And Israel needs to see support from all over the world. I'll read you a quote at the very end of today's episode in regards to that. The resolution says, quote, "The Knesset affirms that the state of Israel has a natural, historic, and legal right to the entirety of the land of Israel, the ancestral homeland of the Jewish people. The Knesset calls upon the Cabinet of Israel to act promptly to extend Israeli sovereignty, including law, jurisdiction, and administration over all areas of Jewish communities in all its forms in Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley. This action will strengthen the state of Israel and its security, and will safeguard the fundamental right of the Jewish people to peace and security in their homeland. On behalf of the Jewish people living in Zion, we call upon our friends around the world to stand with a desire to return to Zion and the vision of the prophets, and to support the state of Israel in exercising its natural, historical, and legal right to the land of Israel, and in implementing Israel's sovereignty." So obviously historic, groundbreaking stuff straight from Israel's government. I want to point out a couple of things before I get into a little bit more of the resolution. Number one, this is a resolution, not a piece of legislation. If we were talking about actually applying Israeli sovereignty over Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, we would be talking about either legislation or an executive order, I believe, from the Prime Minister's office. I don't have all the details on that, but basically, it's a pretty simple move. Israel's Knesset needs to put forward legislation, or maybe even the Prime Minister or the Cabinet. The Cabinet could just make a move to apply Israeli sovereignty. I'll get into why this is not annexation. I don't want you to get that confused. This is not annexation of these areas. This is simply sovereignty, but you're going to have to hang on to the end of the video to find out more about that. But this is a massive move. As you know, a ton of ministers, I can't remember the exact number, a ton of ministers in the Israeli government, including from Likud and the farther right-wing parties, signed a letter asking the Knesset to apply sovereignty by, I believe, July 27th. We're only 3 days away from that right now. This is like just one step before that, and we very easily could see actual sovereignty applied very, very soon. Okay, I want to read you a couple more quotes from the preamble of this resolution. And I know I don't normally like read so much, but this is amazing, considering that this is coming from the secular government of the state of Israel. When I say secular, I mean officially they're secular. I would guess everyone who was involved in writing this resolution are very deeply connected to their Bible and their faith. But if you think about what's going on here, I want you just to allow your mind to be absolutely blown away, because the language and the words used in this resolution are just incredible. 2025, the modern state of Israel, and they're just talking about these things. So listen to this. The preamble states, quote, Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley are an inseparable part of the land of Israel, the historical, cultural, and spiritual homeland of the Jewish people, centuries and millennia before the establishment of the state of Israel. The patriarchs, prophets, and founders of the Jewish nation, they're talking about characters from the Bible, lived and acted in these regions. Cities such as Hebron, Shechem, Shiloh, and Bethel are not merely historic sites. They're living symbols of the continuous Jewish presence in the Holy Land. Sovereignty in Judea and Samaria is an integral part of fulfilling Zionism and the national vision of the Jewish people returning to their ancestral homeland. The October 7th, 2023 massacre demonstrated that the establishment of a Palestinian state poses an existential threat to Israel, its citizens, and the instability of the entire region. So the fact that the government of Israel, the secular government of Israel, is passing a resolution, 71 out of 120 members and only 13 voting against, I have a reason why I think some of the people in the left-wing parties that oppose it didn't actually vote against it. I'll get to that in a second. In today's day and age, these guys are voting overwhelmingly, an overwhelming majority to say that the land of Israel belongs to the nation of Israel because of the Bible and because of the prophets and the forefathers and the patriarchs in the land of Israel. Now, in the end of the resolution, they reference the fact that the Knesset formally declared its opposition to the establishment of a Palestinian state, a unilateral move establishing a Palestinian state west of the Jordan River, stating that such a state would endanger the state of Israel and its citizens, perpetuate the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and undermine regional stability. Now, I do want to note as well, when the Knesset formally voted, I believe in February 2024, to formally reject the notion of a Palestinian state, they voted 99-11. 99 out of 120 Knesset members voted to reject a Palestinian state. 11 voted against it. And with the resolution to apply to support the idea of sovereignty in this same area, you have 71 voting for and only 13 voting against. More on that in just a second. You probably have investments in the American stock market, but did you know you can diversify and invest some money also in Israel? We're not talking about investing in a specific company or a risky venture. We're talking about investing in the overall success of the state of Israel through Israeli stocks and bonds, just like you would in America. Our sponsor and friends over at Wise Money Israel are American Israeli citizens who know both the American and the Israeli stock markets. They offer the same professional management and standards you'd expect from any U.S. investment firm. I've actually been a client of Wise Money Israel for many years, allowing me to diversify my investments to also include the Israeli market. This is not just a blessing for me, but it's also a blessing for the state of Israel, and it's something I firmly believe is the right thing to do as believers. You guys can click the link in the description down below or visit wisemoneyisrael.com/theisraelguys. That's wisemoneyisrael.com/theisraelguys, and you can get a completely free consultation today. That's wisemoney.com/theisraelguys, or click the link in the description below. Now, before I get into the reasons why I think you have left-wing Knesset members who did not vote to support this resolution, but they also didn't vote against it, and why I also think some more centrist lawmakers in the Israel's parliament voted for it, I want to read you a couple of quotes from member of Knesset Simcha Rothman's speech, okay? And he was one of the sponsors of the bill. He said, quote, "Indeed, a Knesset resolution does not itself implement sovereignty." Something important to remember. It's a resolution, not legislation. He went on to say, according to Israeli law, only the government, using an executive order, or the Knesset via formal legislation, can extend Israeli law, jurisdiction, and administration to parts of the land of Israel. But even as a declaration, This resolution carries immense meaning. It expresses our unbreakable bond with the land of Israel, the cradle of Jewish civilization. It reflects the national aspiration to realize the return to Zion. It calls upon the Israeli government to act without delay by its authority to transform vision into reality. So it's very clear they're saying this resolution is meant to be the first step towards physical action, meaning the application of Israeli sovereignty. And he went on and said, it also calls upon Israel's friends worldwide to stand behind the moral, legal, historical, religious, and cultural right of the Jewish people and its nation state to the entire land of Israel, and to support the demand that the Jewish people be sovereign in their homeland. Now, does Israel need our support? Does Israel need the support of the United States government? Do they need the support of the European Union? Do they need the support of people worldwide to declare Israeli sovereignty over their entire land? The answer is no. But that being said, we should be standing behind Israel's right to be sovereign in the entirety of their land. If we truly consider ourselves to be Zionists, then we should embrace the entire definition of Zionism, which is the inherent right of the Jewish people to be sovereign in the Jewish nation of Israel. Now, I think you had 71 Knesset members out of 120 who voted for this resolution, but you only had 13 who voted against. Now, first of all, the fact that Bibi Netanyahu's government right now is about 51, I think, because he recently had the ultra-Orthodox parties pull out of the coalition, and now his government is hanging on by a minority. It's now considered a minority government. But you still had some of the ultra-Orthodox members of Knesset from those parties voting in favor of this resolution, and you had other members of Knesset who might be considered more centrist or even left-wing. Why did so many of these guys vote for this resolution? That goes to show you that this is a very broad bipartisan issue. Not completely, because obviously you had some voting against it, the Democratic Party and the Arab parties, which the Arab parties vote against everything having to do with Zionism and the Jewish nation of Israel. So it's kind of mind-boggling to me sometimes that they're even in the Knesset. It's basically the equivalent of voting in a member of Congress or the Senate who is anti-American and against the freedom that is found in America today, which might not be too far off. I don't know. I'm not getting into American politics right now, but I think the idea of Israeli sovereignty in East Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria is more bipartisan than you might think. Now, on to the question of what this actually means. You might be asking, is this annexation? Does Israel have to annex these territories into their state? What's the difference between annexation and sovereignty? Is this even legal? Now, let's go back a little bit. Remember in 1947, the Arabs rejected the UN partition plan and Israel accepted it. Then they went to war. 7 nations attacked the tiny Jewish state, and after the dust settled, of which Israel did emerge victorious, Israel had declared statehood May 14th, 1948. And Jordan, one of the 7 countries who tried to eliminate the Jewish nation in that war, was in control of East Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, the place that you have heard called the West Bank. From 1948 to 1967, a period of 19 years, Jordan was in control of this area. And even though they tried to annex the territory to Jordan, it didn't work. The only recognition they received was from Great Britain and Pakistan. And for 19 years, they didn't do anything with the territory. If you go back to that time period, you will find that Jordan did not invest in this territory. They left it as a very poor, poverty-stricken area. They didn't invest in it. It was only after 1967 that Israel came in and installed electricity. They brought water. They started building hospitals and schools. Israel provided all of that, not Jordan in that 19-year period. In 1981, but in the early 1980s, Jordan formally relinquished any claim that they thought they had previously had to the area. That left no one with any other claims there, right? And Israel 100% in charge. Today, the territory belongs to the state of Israel, won in a defensive war where Israel liberated these areas in 1967. The only step that has not been taken is Israel applying sovereign law to Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. Today, the civil administration, which is under the auspices of Israel's defense ministry, which is the IDF, basically governs these areas. There's a lot of Israeli law is applied to this area, but sovereign law, a lot of things having to do with territory, building permits, communities, houses, schools, all that kind of stuff is under the civil administration, which is under the Defense Ministry of Israel. Now, Oslo Accords, which you may be thinking about now, 1993 and 95, I believe, originally outlined a path for the Palestinian Authority under Fatah, terrorist organization, to have control and governance over Area A, some control in Area B, and then Israel control over Area C. 30 plus years later, Palestinian Authority hasn't been able to even perform basic functions, such as vote in a new leader. I think Mahmoud Abbas is something like 20 years over his term limit. They can't even vote in a new guy. And there's so much suppression. They've killed journalists, tortured their own people. There's no freedom of speech. If anybody speaks out against the Palestinian Authority, they can't have elections. It's just crazy. But they also can't provide water and electricity. They can't collect their own taxes. Israel does all of that for Area A, and without them, it would completely collapse. Like the Palestinian Authority, Areas A, such as Ramallah, such as Shechem, such as Hebron, all of that is kept propped up simply by Israel taking care of them. In addition, the Arabs and the Palestinian Authority has violated so many tenets of the Oslo Accords, talking about building over 100,000 illegal structures, which we've showed you guys on camera in Area C, and much of it on Israeli state land. And another example is paying hundreds of millions of dollars in payments to convicted murderers and terrorists and their families for the crimes of murdering Jews and attempting to murdering Jews. There's a very good argument that now says the Oslo Accords are dead. Bottom line is there is no legal reason in the world why Israel cannot apply sovereignty in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria today. It simply needs to be legislation that's passed through the Knesset, or, as I understand it from MK Simcha Rothman's speech in the Knesset, a simple executive order issued from the cabinet and the prime minister of Israel. It's not annexation. Annexation is when you take territory that's not your own and move it to your own nation. Israel acquired this territory from in 1967 in a war of self-defense. Jordan relinquished any claim that they had, but even Jordan was occupying it for 19 years before that. We're talking about British Mandate before that, Ottoman Turkish Empire. Guys, there's just no one else that has claim to these areas. Not annexation. We're simply talking about sovereignty, sovereign Israeli law, so that these lands can be a permanent part and be treated just the same as the rest of the nation of Israel. Another encouraging piece of news is that while all of this was going on, Yossi Dagan, who's the governor of the Samaria Regional Council, was in Washington, D.C. with his own sovereignty event, along with 30 U.S. senators and congressmen who all expressed public support for sovereignty in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria. So just like the Knesset called for support from friends all over the world, that's happening, even with lawmakers in the United States. You know, the state of Arkansas actually voted in legislation to require the government to call it Judea and Samaria and stop calling it the West Bank. So it's pretty cool. Guys, in conclusion, the Israeli government is closer than ever, I believe, to applying sovereignty and declaring sovereignty over these areas. You got lawmakers in the United States. I know you guys all support this idea as well. You can drop it in the comments if you want to be public about it. Israel just simply needs to take the step, and I believe it's an easy step. It does not involve annexation. It doesn't mean taking new territory. It doesn't mean going to war. It's simply a declaration of Israeli law over the entirety of the land of Israel. Guys, don't forget to check out Wise Money Israel. We'll have the link in the description below. Think about investing some of your resources in the nation of Israel. I've done so. Very happy I have, and I'm going to continue doing so in the future. That link will be in the description below. Wise Money Israel. Make sure to subscribe. Let me know what you think about today's conversation, today's topic, down in the comment section below. As always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back very soon here at the Israel Guys.